Long gone are the days where the United States Navy roamed the seas with heavily armed battleships as its primary capital ships. Not everyone who talks naval warfare entirely agrees with mothballing the biggest guns of the American Navy, but there's a reason the old battleships are gone, and a reason they're never coming back. There was a time when ship-to-ship fighting was the way of war on the world's oceans. It made sense to create the biggest, baddest ship technology would allow, then arm it with as many weapons as it took to tear the enemy to shreds. If there was any way you could also prevent yourself from getting torn to shreds with some heavy armor, that was great too. Imagine how great it felt to watch British cannonballs bounced off the sides of the USS Constitution as you watched your shipmates take down part of the world's most powerful navy. As time wore on, the technology only got better. By the Civil War, Ironsides was more than a nickname. It was a must-have feature on American ships, made famous by the confrontation of the USS Monitors and the CSS Virginia's epic shootout at Hampton Roads. By the 20th century, naval powers were churning out ships with speed, firepower, and armor in a race to be able to sink the other side's seafaring battleships. In modern naval warfare, however, two sides don't need to see each other. As a matter of fact, one side is better off being able to strike the other without warning, and without one side being able to return fire. These days, satellite technology, radars, and other long-range sensor technologies mean an attacker can see its target without ever needing to go looking for them. More importantly, a battleship or battleship fleet can be hit and destroyed without ever seeing where the shots were fired. And while the battleship would be searching to take down its seaborne opponent, land-based ballistic missiles and anti-ship missiles fired from aircraft would be on its way to put 2,500-plus battleship sailors at the bottom of the ocean. That last hit made Tommy remember his shipmates on the Lexington, and the night took a dark turn. What battleships are still effective for as supporting ground forces with its guns, using them as support artillery for landing Marines? This is the main reason pro-battleship advocates argue for recommissioning the Iowa-class battleships currently being used as museums. But even the Iowa-class still uses a lot of sailors to fire so-called dumb weapons at a potentially civilian-filled environment, while a more precision close air support strike would be more effective and lower the risk of civilian casualties. Not to mention lowering the risk of a counterattack killing the 2,500 sailors that might be manning the guns. By 1947, the United States had deactivated all of its remaining battleships, bar Missouri, and placed them in the United States Navy Reserve fleets. By 1964, all but the 4 Iowa-class battleships had been stricken from the Naval Vessel Registry (NVR), but on several occasions, one or more of those 4 battleships were reactivated to provide naval gunfire support. The U.S. Navy retained the 4 Iowa-class battleships long after other nations scrapped their big gun fleets in favor of aircraft carriers and submarines. Congress was largely responsible for keeping the 4 Iowa-class battleships in the United States Navy Reserve fleets and on the NVR as long as they did. The lawmakers argued that the battleship's large-caliber guns had a useful destructive power that was lacking in the smaller, cheaper, and faster guns mounted by U.S. cruisers and destroyers. In the 1980s, President Ronald Reagan proposed creating a 600-ship Navy as part of the overall Defense Department buildup to counter the threat of the armed forces of the Soviet Union. Both the Soviet Army and Navy had grown in the aftermath of the unification of Vietnam in 1975 and the loss of faith that Americans had in their armed services. As part of this, all 4 Iowa-class battleships were modernized and reactivated. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the 600-ship Navy was seen as unnecessary, and the Navy made plans to return to its traditional 313-ship fleet. This led to the deactivation of many ships in the Navy's fleet, including the 4 reactivated battleships. All were removed from service between 1990 and 1992.